Hello, and welcome to another Rebel Coach Conversation where we love to connect the world and learn together. I am Allison Nissen, co host along with my sister, Marcy Stout. We are the co founders of Rebel Coach. We have been together, obviously, our entire lives because we are sisters. But we started Rebel Coach about six and a half years ago, and we are so excited to be able to bring people along on our journey. And today we have a very special guest, Lindsay Yellin. And Lindsay has two passions. I was just chatting with her. She's taken on a whole new role because her one passion just grew so big. So anyway, Lindsay, go ahead and tell us what you love to do.
Hi, thank you so much for having me here, and I'd love to share. So my two passions are first and foremost, I guess my quote unquote full-time job is I'm a certified leadership coach and speaker, but my now new part-time job passion turned into something more is becoming a barista. I'm very passionate about coffee. That's been brewing, pun intended, for like 15 or so years. And, as we were talking about Allison and Marcy, I moved to California within the last couple of years. And so to find a way to start to get immersed in the community and to meet people and get out of the house, because often when you have your own business, you're often kind of stuck in one place, at least for me, when most of it is virtual. And so I decided to figure out how I could turn my passion into a way to meet people, get out of the house, get involved in the community. And now I've just started working as a barista at a local, really wonderful craft coffee spot.
I love that. I do feel like communities are built around coffee shops. Like there's usually like the local pub, the local coffee shop, and what a great way to kind of immerse yourself in the community. I love it.
Yeah, and I just was reflecting on this today that, this actually ties really closely to a lot of what I believe in and working with my clients and coaching. But, we often get these itches in life that kind of tell us that maybe there's something more or something isn't right. Like there's like that intuitive hit. And I had that when I come from advertising. I worked in advertising for over 12 years. And I got that pretty early on, this kind of itch that maybe this isn't right for me. But I kind of put my head down and did what I should do and climbed the ladder and kept going and going until it got to a point where I just couldn't deny it anymore. It's like I love parts of this job, but there's parts that aren't working for me. And this isn't fulfilling. I'm paying more than what I'm getting. The cost was too high. The anxiety, the stress, the unfulfillment. And that's what sparked me through this itch to start coach training, which set me on the path to become a coach. And so when coming here, I got that itch again, that it was like, okay, you've established your business. This is really satisfying. This is really fulfilling in one way. But I realized I lost something by leaving the agency world, being part of a team, being in person, kind of solving problems together, being challenged to learn unexpected things when you didn't expect them. And I think that's when I realized, well, what else can I do? And that itch came around coffee. And that's what kind of sparked me to start to explore these jobs. And I think in life, we can get these itches, but it's so easy to just want to ignore them. And because there's so many things to be afraid of. There's so many fears I had around, do I become a barista? People judge me. I'm by far the oldest one there. Is this taking away like time I need for my business? Will I be leaving revenue on the table? All of these things. But I love to move through life from the philosophy of make decisions from a place of possibility instead of a place of fear. And that is what helped me make the decision to leave corporate to go into the agency or go into the coaching world. And that's what helped me make this decision too. It's like the possibilities of community, of getting and meeting new people, of learning more about something I'm very passionate about. All those possibilities outweighed any of those fears I had.
So well said. We always feel like, if you can imagine the possibilities from a place of like wonder and curiosity, good things happen, especially if you combine it with you do you. So often like there's conventional roles of what you're supposed to be doing
Yes.
that you rule it out. But if you do you and you do what you want to do, people notice fulfillment. People notice people that are happy and excited for what they're doing and talking about it like the way you are. So I appreciate you sharing that with us.
Yeah, of course. And I couldn't agree more. And I work with that, with my leaders all the time that I coach is just asking them, are you making this decision? Are you responding? Are you reacting from a place of fear, from a place of judgment? What if we take a step back and try on more curiosity? What if the aim was to build more connection? What was possible here? What if we made a decision or acted from that place? What would be different? And usually those perspectives unlock something so different. And I don't think that always comes natural. We're geared to think from a place of fear. So it takes a little bit more intention, a little bit more muscle to do that, but the outcome is so much more powerful.
Right. Well, I'd love to ask a question, going from the corporate world to then becoming a coach.
Mhm.
It's not actually an easy journey. It seems a lot of people in the corporate world have this like, oh, if only I could be leading people all day long and not worried about all the other stuff, my life would be so much better or less stressful. But at the same time, there's a big change in so many different things to go from that corporate space to then a full-time coach. Tell us
Mhm.
about your journey and your growth and kind of what you learned from that process.
Yeah, it's such a great question. I was really fortunate with my journey. It was slow and fast at the same time. Like I feel some people start thinking about coaching, but maybe wait a decade before they start to do something. I did, for me, it was about I guess a 3, 4 year journey. So it started with getting that ache of like something isn't right anymore. And what can I do? I like to think about career journeys as like riding trains on different tracks. And sometimes you're on one train and one track and you like where you're going. But I realized I was on this train of this track of account management and advertising. And I knew where that track was headed. And I knew I wasn't going to be happy and I needed to get off. It wasn't right. And so I'm like, but I don't know what track to go to. I don't know what train to get on. Like, what do I do? This is all I've done. So that's when I started just tried on coach training and things started to click. And it was actually the coaching work where I started to uncover values for the first time and really what would be fulfilling and purpose-driven work and all of that for myself. I started to gain that clarity. And it first started, I think, perhaps others can relate. You try to think, oh, how can I take the path of the least resistance? So, oh, can I move in the agency world to a job that is like more people focused? Can I do coaching here, right? Can I just like, whoop? And so that didn't necessarily work out. But I had a really incredible manager at the time. And I think this made all the difference because it felt safe. He made the space safe enough for me to share, hey, here I am as a senior leader on your team, but I'm planning to not stay here. I actually want to do something different. And he was really supportive from day one. And he was like, I'm here to whatever to make it happen. So I was able to do some stuff internally. And then when the time came and I hit that like really awful burnout, and I was like, I got to get out. I got to get out. This is time. I'm going to just make the change. I had been coaching part-time, weekends, evenings, mornings for about a year or so after certification started. And I, this is during COVID. I should probably back up. I kind of skipped over a couple things. So during COVID, my certification started right when COVID started. And that was when it all kind of started to come to head because in advertising, we were doing so much reactive work. So it was like always on while also trying to learn how to coach and take on clients. So a year goes by and I hit this really awful burnout. So I went and did like a little mini sabbatical on my own and took 2 weeks off and went to like literally like a top of a mountain and rented a cabin and just took time on my own. And it was there when I realized that you know, I got back to this like childlike joy that I don't think I've had since I don't even remember when. Just the freedom to be able to just be and be with myself, which I think is really hard to do when you're just working in corporate all the time. And when I came back within the first week, I had migraines and stressed out and crying to my brother again. And he goes, Lindsay, you've been back for 1 week. What are you doing? This isn't right anymore. So that's when I called my manager and said, hey, I think I got to start to transition out. And so I was going to put in my 2 weeks at that point and just give coaching a try and give it a go because it was just couldn't handle it anymore. And it just didn't feel fulfilling. Like it just doesn't seem worth it, the cost. And what had happened was that our business was changing at the same time. So I was able and fortunate enough to start to move into part-time work, which I think in my industry isn't usually really possible. So I went part-time coaching and part-time advertising and account management. And I was able to do that for about 9 months. And that allowed me to hire a business coach. It allowed me to still have insurance and get some paycheck coming in while I was establishing what my business would look like. And it ended up being a really smooth transition. So then by January 2022, our account had moved on and I moved on as well. And I said goodbye to advertising. I was in full-time coaching, but I love how the universe works because I said, although I couldn't get coaching with my current agency, said goodbye, moved on. I got a call from a sister agency like the next day and began doing workshop facilitation and coaching for them. So, and all of that was through just the connections and the network that I had, that I was able to start to cash in some of that currency to get that opportunity. So, very long-winded way, I believe, in answering your question, Marcy, but what I learned the most is it's not just one way is the right way. I thought I needed to quit to go cold turkey for it to happen. And the reality was I could actually go part-time and transition. And that was going to work too. And that took strong boundaries, and I learned a ton from it. And then also when moving full-time into it, it was, there's a lot of fear that I had, but when you sit back and let things come to you and receive it and be open to what's going to come, you'd be surprised. I never thought I would do facilitation. And within my first year, I started facilitating. So it's been a journey where there's a lot of surrendering that needs to happen while also trying to push ahead. It's that balance of how much do I go seek, but how much do I allow to come to me?
Lindsay, that's such an incredible journey. That was a hard time for everybody in general with COVID and the world shifting. And it sounds like you were fortunate because you were open to possibilities, which is so exciting. Can you give us a little bit of strategy right now if a client came to you and said, "Oh my goodness, I need help in X, whatever your favorite niche is." What would you strategize? How would you approach different issues, and what could we take away right now from you?
Yeah, that's a great question. So a lot of folks end up coming to me and find me because they are feeling, excuse the pups, Yeah, the dogs are barking in the background. There must be some cat outside. So a lot of folks will come to me because they're just feeling really stuck and miserable. Like they realize, similar to me, that they've been climbing the ladder and they are looking up and around and they're like, how did I get here? I don't really know if I want to keep climbing. I don't know what to do, but I feel really stuck and scared up here. But I want to make my next move be intentional. I don't want to just jump and end up in the same place. So the first thing I do with anyone who's either coming to me for that reason, or let's say they want to unlock greater leadership potential, I always start by reconnecting to self, because I think often when we find ourselves lost in our career, we're disconnected from our career, we're disconnected from ourselves. So before you can start to understand what you need to be doing next, you need to understand who you are again and what you actually really need. So that's where I find I'm a very values-driven coach. I think it is the secret sauce to the foundation of who you are as a leader, and understanding how to lead your life very intentionally for yourself and then to be able to lead others. I don't think you can lead others powerfully until you can intentionally lead yourself. So it goes back to how to get to a strong foundation of self-leadership. So that's where I would start, is how to either on your own or find the right partner to work through what are your core values, and not just to name them, but what do they actually mean to you? Because you and I, Allison, we might have the same value of connection, right? But how I view and think about connection and honor it's going to be different than you probably. So how do you fully understand it and look at your life and say, what is aligned to this value, and where am I perhaps dishonoring it for myself or to others? How do I start to correct that? Does that start to fix anything? What do I see now? And then continue it further. Well, what do I need for my career? What's my hierarchy of career needs? Okay, now I understand that. Wow, I'm starting to get a clearer picture of who I am and what I need. Now let's move forward. What are the saboteurs or intruding thoughts or parts of myself that are getting in my way and believing what I'm capable of, or that are making me have these beliefs that are not serving me in this job or perhaps in a future job? How do I start to integrate and manage those? So it's just building up this arsenal of tools to help you reconnect to yourself and have different perspectives on the world. And then from that place, start to think, okay, now do I want to stay? Do I want to go? Do I want something totally different? The outlook changes from that place. And when clients first come to me and say, oh, I hate my job, it's like, okay, well, now you understand why, or you understand what needs to change, and we can take more intentional action.
Love it. And I'd love to go a little bit deeper, because everything you're saying, I'm like, yes, it sounds awesome. So we often have people, like our demographic of following these conversations. We have a higher percentage of women who are working. We have a higher percentage of women who may have families, they may have high careers, and they do often get a place of loss of self because they get so busy serving everyone. They all of a sudden like, wait, do I have a hobby? Like, do I know my why? Do I know my purpose? So we often on these calls like to kind of have a moment like this where we say, well, before you get to the point where you really need somebody,
Yes.
what's like a good thing that somebody could do and take away from this conversation as like a proactive health check on their values or their sense of self, or what are some things they could do, after listening to this sometime soon?
Yeah, that's a beautiful question. A couple things come to mind for me. And I think it's the first is like slowing down and checking in on how are you reacting to situations when things are happening. Let's say you get an email that kind of frustrates you and isn't what you expected, or someone interrupts the one moment you have to try to meditate or get your workout in. And are you able to slow down enough and respond in a way that you look back and you feel proud, or you're like, okay, yeah, that I feel good about that? Or are you showing up in a way that by the end of the day or after these moments, you're kind of disappointed in yourself and you're like, wait, who was that? That's not how I want to be. And if you keep doing that every day, at the end of the day, you're like, I don't know who showed up today. I don't know who sent that email. I don't know who spoke to my kid that way. And if that keeps happening, then you're just going to continue to dissociate with yourself and disconnect further and further and further. And it's going to become harder to find your way back. So, and if you're noticing that, it's pausing and saying, or getting curious with yourself and not judgmental. I love Ted Lasso, right? Be curious, not judgmental. So what is it? What do I need to start to respond in a way that will make me proud? What is it? Do I need to get more curious? Do I need to be more connection driving? Am I able to take a beat? Do I need to go back and repair and start to have that type of foresight or afterthought, I guess it is. But then the other thing is taking the time to vision and then seeing how you're aligning to that vision. So I always take my clients through a visualization exercise where you just imagine yourself at like a retirement celebration for yourself. And all these people are giving you letters and words and cards of thanks and appreciation for you. And some are from people you know and you love, but then there's some people that you never met that you've had impact on that you didn't even know. So, what is it that they're saying? What do you want people celebrating? What do you want people thanking you for? What's the impact that you want to have by that point in your life? And that allows us to bring some light into what your purpose could be. And if you realize that is the job you're doing, the way you're spending your time, how you're interacting with people, allowing you to have that impact that you want to be celebrated for later in life, does that feel aligned? Great. If not, then how do you get curious about what perhaps needs to change?
I feel like you've been like spying through the camera. And so the other day I had one of those days where I'd gotten the email that you talked about, and the person who showed up was not who I normally am. And it really did ruin my entire rest of my day. And Marcy
Totally.
and I often talk about living above center and knowing your reactions. So what you
Yes.
need to do, what we advocate is that the behaviors and attitudes that you need to have in order to control your emotions, so that when you have that moment, you can course correct, like
Yes.
right on the spot. And all day I was telling myself, okay, think above center, think above center, think above center. But
Yeah.
sometimes you just have to have a moment. And that's all I could say about that. I just had a moment. It didn't ruin my next day or the following, but it was that one, and you're just like, oh, I'm so frustrated. And
You,
so I love that idea of just sort of reconnecting to yourself, understanding, your own values and how to be proactive when something could shift the way your day is proceeding.
and I love that you brought that up, Allison. There's one thing I'd love to build on what I said of sometimes we don't have had the outlet of how do you process something that's happening. Like I realize that I didn't react the way I wanted to. I realize I'm really triggered. I'm really upset. I don't know what to do with it. And I think that's what happens a lot. And something that a process I learned that has changed my life over the last year and a half is mindful self-compassion. Are you guys familiar with Kristen Neff and Chris Germer? So self-compassion is just a really powerful tool and something I work with my clients a lot because I think it's really hard for us, especially women, especially people in the US. It's not very common to think about how to be give loving kindness to yourself. And that's what self-compassion is all about. And Kristen Neff is a research expert about it. And I really encourage folks to look into it. But Kristen paired up with Chris Germer to come up with a process called mindful self-compassion. And it's kind of a meditative, reflective process that you can do in moments when you're feeling really triggered, you're feeling overwhelmed by emotions and you don't know what to do with it, and or pain. It's just all about how to manage suffering. And suffering can be emotional suffering, it can be anger, it can be physical pain, it can be pain you're feeling for somebody else that you can't do something about. And their process has been transformative for me. And I take my clients through it all the time because what it does, it allows your nervous system to regulate. And it's also a tool that nervous system experts say to use to regulate yourself. So the process, I'll just share it quickly, is first just taking a moment to get mindful and feel what you're feeling and then to name it. So perhaps, Allison, it was like, oh, like I am so angry. I feel this like in my stomach bubbling up. And you think about the situation, this email came in, I can't believe they said this. And you allow yourself just to be with it and to feel it and name it like this is suffering. This is so frustrating. And then you connect to common humanity of, okay, but you know what? People all over the world are getting triggering emails. I'm not alone in this feeling. And being in the job I am, conversing with all different types of people, this is going to happen. This is part of it. And then the third part is how do you offer yourself self-compassion and say, you know, I am stronger than I realize, or may I remember how much I'm loved, or whatever the words are that you need to hear. And often what allows you to get there is you imagine, let's say Marcy came to you and said this and said, I got this email, I'm so angry. What would you share with her to remind her that it's okay, that she's not alone in this painful moment, in this frustrating moment? And then can you offer that back to yourself? So that allows, when I take clients through that, what I see is I see such a big transformation because they're stuck in the emotion, the anger, and the feeling, and they're so up here. And then they're able to come back into their body and say, okay, I have something else to choose. I can choose kindness for myself. I can choose a different belief, a different perspective, and I'm able to move through this moment versus being stuck in it.
That's so powerful because I think that the curse our society is in, we are too busy to even recognize how we're feeling. So then we're sprinting through the day, reacting in ways that's not like ourselves. And then as a result, you have all this like noise that you're mad about, and you wake up the next day and you just bring that same self with you, which is not your best self. It's your reaction self, your triggered self. So I love how you said that. So Lindsay, as it comes to like working with clients and stuff, we'd love to share with our community, how can they get in touch with you? What type of clients do you like working with? And give us about your practice.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And as I mentioned before, I often, leaders find themselves coming to me when they are feeling like, hey, I'm at a point in my career where things are not lining up and I'm spending more days miserable than I am happy and fulfilled. And I want to make a change, but I don't know what to do. And I want to be intentional about it. I want to lead myself through this differently than how I've led myself through my career before. So how do I do that? And I'm the partner to help support there. I also work with executives that want to just try to change the way that they're leading their team. So it might not be about just their career because they want to make a career change. It's I want to lead myself so I can lead my team differently. And folks get in touch with me through my website, yellincoaching.com, or of course through LinkedIn, just Lindsay Yellin. And I'm sure perhaps there'll be some links shared, but that's the best way to get in touch. Just grab some time. I have a calendar link in there. I'd love to just connect to see if I can offer something to you just in our call, or if maybe working together might be a better fit to support you moving into a more fulfilling career.
Lindsay, what a wonderful conversation. I'm going to go practice self-compassion. I'm going to, okay, it would probably be a little bit too much to just schedule it on my calendar because I feel like if it's scheduled, it gets done. But
then you have negative self-talk because you missed it.
Yeah, and then oh gosh, spiraling into a whole different direction.
I'm too busy to be compassionate.
Lindsay Yellin, thank you so much for stopping by. You have been listening to another Rebel Coach Conversation. We are excited to be able to share our guests with the world. Please come and visit us. I would like to share that Rebel Coach is also now working. We have a networking program for college juniors and seniors who are looking to understand how to network a little bit better. So go on our website, figure it out. We would love to have a message from you if you know any college students who are looking forward to their future but unsure how to get started. So anyway, from Allison Nissen and Marcy Stout, the co-founders of Revel Coach, we are glad you have been here. Goodbye.
Thank you, Lindsay. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.